Last week we worked on some banishing and some waning moon work. You had some homework to keep working with your daily meditations and working with some banishing. And hopefully you were able to do a banishing spell, continue to work on your goals, and to start incorporating mirror magic and a magical diary into your daily practice. So I hope all of that's been going well for you. I wanted to talk a little bit about blessing and how the concept of blessing for a witch involves the magical act of naming something. So when you name something or you discover something's name, you have power over it. When you bless something, you're actually renaming it. Instead of calling it a problem, you call it good. And this approach can significantly change things for you in your life if you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. For instance, if someone at work is being rude to you, rather than reacting negatively, you can excuse yourself, take a moment, and remember that you have the power to rename this situation. You can name it good. If you've been practicing your Orb of Light exercise, it's a helpful tool for this. The way that we've been working the Orb of Light in this course combines the grounding and centering, the cleansing of the aura, and the conjuring of the orb. You can calm down and take a few breaths and even just silently repeat the phrase Orb of Light several times as it appears in your mind, visualizing your energy bodies harmonizing with whatever the situation inside this orb, and just declare, I now name you good. Only good can come from this situation. And repeat this to yourself a few times while visualizing whatever images are helpful to you to transform this energy. This process is all about dealing with the hermetic principle of polarity. If something negative happens, its positive is already present because everything in this world has duality. And by focusing on the pole that you're interested in, you can flip it and you can manifest the good outcomes that you desire. When you state that only good can come from something, you start to see blessings and lessons within it. And you understand how much power you have over every situation when you do that. I have included a guided meditation for blessing that will help you practice this. Over time, you won't need the recording and you'll be able to just bless and transform situations very quickly on your own. Remember, blessing isn't limited to any specific lunar phase. You can do it anytime you want, even during a dark moon. Soon, you'll be able to handle small issues on the fly without needing any kind of setup, even internally. Blessing can change how you perceive a situation, and it can open you up to the good within everything. When you get really good at blessing, you can start to just use the term blessed be intentionally. Right now, blessed be might just be a catchphrase, but once you understand the power behind those words, when you say blessed be, you can use it to change something. By now, after last week, you have got an encyclopedia of positive thoughts because of all the banishing and other kinds of work you've been doing with those waning moon flips, etc. You've got an abundance of positive thoughts in your book. You can just start reading through those lists of positive thoughts every day. You don't have to remember what it was flipped from. You can just start reading through it and understanding that this is starting to become the norm in your deep mind, what these thoughts are. And just concentrating on these thoughts for a couple of moments every day, you understand that a lot of the negativity that you've been putting up with loses its power because you've cut off its life force by shifting your attention and not dwelling on that and changing it and flipping it and working with the law of polarity on purpose for your benefit to have things the way you want them to be. You're going to keep hopefully doing that at every waning moon phase, and you'll get really good at that. Now, you don't have, like I said, you don't have to wait until the waning moon phase if something's happening. You can use those powers of polarity anytime you need them, but they're especially powerful during that banishing phase that you've just gone through. The most powerful times of the moon are the new moon and the full moon. And of course, when I refer to the new moon, I'm talking about the day or two after the new moon as it's noted in the calendar, which is what we call the dark moon. So just to reiterate, when you look into a calendar or online, when's the next new moon, it'll say, oh, that's on Thursday, June 6th. If it says that it's on June 6th, then I know that the dark moon is June 6th, and the new moon's going to be the day after that, depending on what time of day the new moon's in. You'll see a little crescent right after sunset, and that'll tell you. But if you can't see a little crescent moon on a clear night, then it's too dark to be working. One more time, the new moon on the calendar is actually the dark moon. The actual new moon is either 1 or 2 days after that. I avoid doing magic on the dark moon. That's a rest time for me. And the same goes for eclipses, both solar and lunar. Those are times of rest. It's not that you're going to turn into an alligator or something if you work on the dark moon. It's just not the most optimal time for doing waxing moon work. And because of the darkness of the moon, there's been so many traditions of magical practitioners who've avoided working on the dark moon and on the eclipses that it's a tradition that I uphold. It respects the ancient traditions, and it always gives me a built-in rest period. And I just find that to be the most effective way of working. If you decide that you love working on dark moons and you don't want to listen to that, then you do you. Nobody can stop you. It's your craft. I've also included a planetary hours handout in your materials. Now, if you're taking the basic angel magic course, or if you have a background in basic angel magic, you can just use the angelic hours for all of your planetary hours. You don't have to have a separate system for planetary hours. But I've included this system of planetary hours in here that's a little bit more widely known, and it only works with 7 planets. I used to work in this system that is included in this course extensively back in the day, but now I pretty much only work with angelic hours, even if I'm not working angelic magic, just because I find jumping from system to system not to be the best way of working. When you look at the planetary hours that are given, there's a table, and it's called after sunrise. And so you do have to look up and say, what time did the sun rise today? So if the sun rose at 5:42, I round that up to 5:45. So the first hour is 5:45 is the sun on Sunday. The second hour, 6:45 is Venus on Sunday. The third hour on Sunday is 7:45 for Mercury, etc. I just go straight down 60 minutes for each hour. There's other systems that are more complicated, and the angel system that we have, the angelic hours that we have, is less complicated. Now, if you decide to use the angelic hours like I prefer to do, you don't have to worry about after sunrise. You just look at what the clock is, and you'll see that every hour, day and night, is listed for clock time for each planet. The only thing, if you're using that basic angel magic system, you'll skip the hour for Uranus, because we don't use Uranus in this Witchcraft Beyond the Basics. So that's 1 hour you just won't use if you're using planetary hours. The whole reason you would even need a planetary hour is if you want to work on a day that's not ruled by the planet. That's really the only reason that you have to worry about it. If you're working on a planetary day, you can work on any hour you want to. Now, some people that are really wanting to make sure that they are as pure as they possibly can be will work on the day and in the hour of that planet. I don't tend to get that detailed myself. But if I want to work a Venus ritual on a day that's not Friday, it gives you a list of other days that you can work. Looking at Venus, it says I can work on Fridays, obviously, or during Venus hours on any day but Saturday. So if I'm doing a Venus spell, I can use the Venus hour on any day except for Saturday. Don't work Venus spells on Saturday. Here it also for Jupiter, it says you can work on Thursday or during the Jupiter hours on any day, again, but Saturday. So Jupiter and Venus don't like Saturday. Mercury, I can work on any day I want, either any hour on Wednesday or during a Mercury hour. Mars, I can work anytime on Tuesday, but I can also work during a Mars hour on any day except for Monday and Saturday. If I'm doing a moon spell, I can work on any hour I want on a Monday or during a moon hour on any day except for Tuesday and Saturday. The sun, I can work during any hour on a Sunday or during the sun hours on any day except for Saturday. It's mostly Saturday. The planets don't like to play well with Saturn. But those are very traditional. And it's a way that you can work a planetary spell on a day that's not of the planet by using the planetary hour. Take one system of planetary hours and use it, and then don't go back and forth, because otherwise it starts to dilute your effectiveness. So either use the one I've given you here, or if you like the one from the Angel Magic course, you can use that one instead, like I do. If you're working a multiple day spell, all that matters for timing is your first day. If you're working a spell of Mars, if you started on a Tuesday, don't worry about the rest of the week being in a Mars hour. You don't have to worry about it. It's as if time stops on that very first day, and the rest of everything you do is being fed by the energies when you originated the spell. So as long as you're starting the spell on the right day and or hour, you can do the spell any time you want to for subsequent days if it's the same spell. So if I had a 7-day money spell and I'm starting it on a Thursday for Jupiter, that's fine. I don't have to make sure that I'm in a Jupiter hour when I repeat it on Friday and then Saturday and then Sunday. It's as if I'm on Thursday each and every day until the spell is finished. Remember that planetary hours are mystical and traditional, not astrological. They don't relate to anything that's happening in the sky, but are based upon an archetypal clock. And like I said, there's more than one way of working. So find a way and stick with it. For your homework this week, you're going to be working on an attraction spell because the moon is going to be waxing. So the best time to start a new moon spell is as close to the new moon as possible on the day that's appropriate for your spell, on the planetary day that corresponds to the spell you're working. So a Venus spell would be the first Friday after the new moon. A sun spell would be the first Sunday after the new moon, etc. You're going to want to plan that out for this next week. And you want to try to get it done in the first quarter possible. But if you can't, then just get something done during this waxing moon cycle. Find a goal from your first week goal sheet that you rated an 8 or above on your desire scale and somewhere between 7 and 9 on your sphere of influence scale. You want to make sure that you're pressing into your sphere of influence a little bit. Nothing too easy, but nothing too difficult either. You don't want to overflex your magical muscles. You don't want to go so far out that you strain, but you don't want it to be so easy that you're not building any power. Find something that's just a little bit of a reach for you, but definitely something you want a whole lot. You'll be creating a thought form, and there's so many different ways to build thought forms, and we'll cover more about thought forms in future classes. But the method that we're working with this week works really well, and it's the one I tend to use 95% of the time. So you find your goal, you write out all the details, be as specific as possible. If it's a thing, write out the color, the size, whatever. Be as specific as you possibly can with your goal. Then the next step is to figure out what the essence of this well-defined goal is. What will it do for you emotionally? What will it do for you financially? What's it going to do? What function does it fulfill? You don't want to be so specific that you're naming a specific company or a specific person, because you don't want to have your magic start to be an exercise in manipulating other people's free will. You want it to be an exercise in you creating something good for yourself. If there's a person that you're attracted to that has the qualities of what you're looking for in a mate, you can use them as inspiration, but list the qualities, not that person. And the same goes with a job. You don't want to say, I want the job at such and such, but the qualities of that job you want to be clear on. You want to be very specific about. You do want to be clear on the salary range, the field, the working hours, the location, proximity to home, company, culture, benefits, all of that kind of stuff for your job spell. Or for your love spell, their age range, their gender, if that's important to you. If looks are important, you want to include at least some of that, but what they're like as a person and the kinds of things that you do together and what's important to you in a relationship, honesty and commitment, and do they want kids, etc., etc. So you want to be specific about the details and also specific about the essence without being manipulative of another person. Once you know what you want and it's clearly defined, you want to come up with a way to recognize it once it has manifest. And this is explained in your homework, so don't worry too much about it, but think about a visual cue that shows that your goal has been achieved. For example, you might get a phone call from your mother congratulating you on your new job, or you shake hands with your new boss, or someone throws you a congratulations party. Identify how you would know that it's happened. And this will then help you in regards to your visualization, because then you can condense your entire desire down to a very short loop of a visual, like a little movie, of this thing happening. And you see it over and over again during the visualization part of the spell. And this little scene, you got a call from your mother congratulating you, or you shook the hands of the boss, or someone threw you the party. That little scene that you see over and over again then becomes the seed of that thought form. And make sure that it's not you looking for it in your visualization. You're not seeing yourself over there doing something. It's happening to you as if you were in your body. It's you having it. It's you being it. It's you doing it in the first person. And so you want that little visualization loop that is so short but so clear that you can see it again and again. And it doesn't matter if you think you can visualize. Just know what the scene is and pretend that you're experiencing it in whatever way you can, whether you see visions or not. This is a very important aspect of the process, getting that visual cue in your mind that proves to you that your spell has happened. And you want to repeat that loop for several minutes. As with all of the classes, I provided a recording for this spell. The pacing of this particular recording is intentionally rather quick so that you can be engaged, but also slow enough that you can get the work done. But regardless, after you learn how this work feels, please feel free to do it on your own. Don't ever think that you're supposed to be tethered to these guided meditation recordings. They're just there to help you get started. So once you get a sense of the process, an idea of how it works, try it without the recording. Obviously, you can use the recordings for as much as you want them, but I don't want you to feel like you have to rely on them. You don't ever have to use your altar or candles or oils or incenses or props or tools. They are optional, but they do tend to help us. So at this particular stage, you can use no props other than your pencil and paper, your book of shadows, and your mind. But if you're using an altar, you can, if you decide to, work with either a candle that as closely as possible matches the auric color that you're working with, or a tablecloth, an altar cloth, or a little placemat that is close to that auric color. Just as close as you can to the auric attraction color. It doesn't have to be exact. Anoint the candle with your anointing oil, and if you prefer a planetary oil, you can use it. For incense, if you like incense smoke, then just burn it on incense charcoal. But if you don't like smoke, just use either an oil warmer, like where you put the little candle in the bottom and you put some water in the cup. Usually you're supposed to put an essential oil in there, which is fine. You can use an essential oil that way instead of incense, and then it becomes vapor instead of smoke. But you can also use incense material in those oil warmers as well. And there are also electric incense burners. They're not really burners, they're warmers. It's like the difference between a vaporizer and a cigarette. It warms the incense material so you get the full impact of the smell, but it doesn't actually provide any smoke or produce any smoke. If you want to set up an altar, the way that I like to set up my altar is with 2 white taper or pillar candles in the back of the altar on the right and left sides, and then include a representation of every element on the altar. For instance, a colored candle for your spell could be the fire, a little dish of salt or earth, a little chalice or cup of water, and then your incense burner or your oil warmer for air. Casting a circle isn't necessary, but it can increase your focus and effectiveness. So feel free to cast the circle as per the witch's primer or the other outline that I've included in your course. If you don't have the time or the inclination to do a circle, you can proceed with your spell without the circle. When you're ready, do your own Orb of Light meditation and or grounding and centering, or you can use one of the recordings that I provided. But you can actually just jump right straight into the attraction spell recording because it includes a small grounding orb. With this method, you're becoming attractive to the energy that you desire. It's not exactly like the so-called law of attraction. It's more like drawing what you want toward you like a magnet, becoming magnetic to your desires. I recommend that you stick with the auric colors that I provide until you are more familiar with the process. Afterwards, you can substitute other planetary colors if you desire, but these auric colors have been used for a very long time for both banishing and attracting. They are safe and reliable. For example, while black is a banishing color for Saturn, I don't recommend using that in your aura because sometimes that's a difficult color to handle. Similarly, I don't recommend using brown in your aura. You're going to gain experience, and then you can experiment with different colors as you understand them better. But these auric colors are safe, inclusive, and have a strong tradition in this type of magic. Just like with the banishing spell, we use the auric color for attracting. You'll see the same device in the Orb of Light, which is really just an extension of your aura and a protective and empowering thought form. When it's time to color that Orb of Light, just color it the attraction auric color provided in your handouts. And the recording takes care of most of the work for you, other than you have to know in advance what you want, what your visualization is, and what the auric color you're working with is. When you start to visualize your desire, you will create a second Orb of Light around it, and this will form this small thought form that you will eventually bring to your navel, housing it there for the duration of the operation, as the navel is your power center. We will color the Orb of Light with the planetary auric color similar to what we did before. Previously, we had a cone of power with the tip above our heads. That's what we're used to. But in this case, the cone of power is inverted, and its tip is right at your navel, where your thought form is housed. And the base of the cone is above you, and it encompasses the entirety of the planet. So the planet that you're working with is visualized directly above you, and the base of the cone will be encompassing the entirety of that planet. And then that tip of the cone will be all the way down at your navel. So it's an upside down cone of power. Protomatter or astral substance is referred to as magic dust or fairy dust in fairy tales, pixie dust, subatomic particles, astral substance, thought substance. You create a thought form and allow the planetary energy to arrange it into astral substance, which then returns to you and is rearranged within your aura. And this process makes you more attractive to what you're seeking. It's a very powerful technique, and I think you're going to enjoy working with it quite a bit. The cool thing about the attracting is that you can repeat the same spell multiple times, unlike banishing, which is typically a one and done operation. You can do it as many times as you want. You can do it every day during the entire waxing moon cycle. Again, the only timing concern is on day one. The subsequent days, it doesn't matter what hour you work in. Whether you're doing a 3-day spell, a 9-day spell, or a spell for the entire waxing moon period, or a single day spell is completely up to you. However, if you do repeat it, you'll notice that you'll improve the thought form building. It'll get stronger and stronger. So for this week, and maybe for the next few months, while you're getting used to this kind of work, you may want to repeat the operation for several days, even up to the entire waxing cycle, just to get better at the process itself. But pretty soon, it'll be very natural for you, and you won't even need to repeat it if you don't want to. If you're using a candle, light it, and then read your paper with all your details. before you start into your meditation. Be clear on what you want. Be clear on your visualization loop. Be clear upon your auric attraction color before you begin. Another thing you might want to start looking at, and you don't have to do it right now, but as you get more involved, is to check out some of the other correspondences on your list and also just in other books and things like that. I haven't gone into the most detail in these lists, but you're going to start seeing that there's gems and metals and numbers. For example, if you're doing a Jupiter spell, you could do it on a Thursday, which is associated with Jupiter. You could use one of Jupiter's gemstones like lapis or amethyst. And if you decide to do a multiple day spell, you could consider doing it for 4 days, since the number 4 corresponds to Jupiter. Or you could use 4 purple or blue candles. We haven't really talked much about talismans in this course yet. You're going to start making talismans later. But right now we're grounding your thought form within you, because it's the most powerful way to start this kind of spell. However, you can also ground your thought form into an object like a gemstone, a piece of metal, a bag of herbs, or a piece of paper with diagrams on it. If you had a bag of herbs and you wanted them to be linked to Jupiter, you could include 4 herbs in it, or 3 herbs in a gemstone. Then you could ground your thought form into that talisman to create the change for you, and then that talisman can be there to charge a specific place, like your home or your car. For general goal magic, I prefer you to be your own talisman and to ground the thought form within you. And this way, you don't have to be superstitious about talismanic magic. You can think of the spell as being grounded within your aura, your cells, your body, your mind, your spirit, your DNA, working nonstop for you. And you'll see a very quick and positive response when you work that way. It's also effective to link your spell to what you've made room for with your banishing spell. For instance, if you banished poverty and created a vacuum, it would be a great time for you to do a spell for financial abundance or wealth, using the ideas and thoughts that you got from your waning moon flips. If you did a spell to release extra weight, this would be a great time to do a health spell or a diet spell or a spell for feeling glamorous and luxurious. Don't skip the list-making process for any of your spells. Don't just focus on the main thing. Go for the details. Make it detailed. You want to capture the essence of whatever it is that you're working for. Without clarity on what the spell is bringing you, it won't be as powerful. So put in the work. This preparation is at least as important, if not more important, as the actual magical part. By defining your goal clearly, both practically and energetically, you'll get what you want more cleanly, more quickly, and avoid the most common problems that people associate with magic. Problems only arise because people didn't take the time to define their goals. Your homework is to continue working with your daily meditations, morning, evening, and orb of light. Continue on your mirror magic. Continue with your magical diary, and perform at least 1 basic waxing moon attraction spell. Don't overload yourself. Obviously, less is more, but this is an intermediate course, so you do want to flex your muscles. Take it slowly. Enjoy the process. Look at the results you're getting. If the results are not what you want, it might be because you need to tweak your technique. So always be gentle, laugh more, be kind to yourself, enjoy yourself. It's not the magic ever that's causing you the problems. It's we that are causing the problems. And so magic tends to just amplify what's going on. If you notice that you're getting weird results from your magic, it's because you need to do some more of the preliminary work in your mind. And that's what all of these lists and things like that are there for, to give you a very clean experience in all of your magic. We are really doing well here. We are already halfway through our Witchcraft Beyond the Basics course, and it's only going to get more fun from here. So thank you so much for spending some time with me, and we will see you next week for Lesson 4. Until then, blessed be.